Can we move to the next slide, please, Parth? All right, so hello everyone. Welcome again to Edmonton's virtual meetups group. Some of you may recognize me from previous meetups. My name is Jimmy Attia. I'm a senior strategic advisor with the MuleSoft Customer and Architecture team. Let me actually start my camera here so I can say hello to everyone. I would like to welcome everyone who's joining us from Alberta or anywhere else in the world. Actually, one of the benefits of the virtual world that we are living in these days is that anyone has access to join any MuleSoft meetup from anywhere. So if you are interested in future virtual meetups like this one, you can visit the MuleSoft meetup portals at meetups.mulesoft.com/events. You will find a big list of upcoming events that you can attend for free. All right, so back to today's session. Today we'll be talking about how to address performance issues using Anypoint monitoring. This session will actually help MuleSoft operation teams within your organization and give them with the capabilities on how to diagnose and trace errors using the Anypoint platform, specifically Anypoint monitoring. And in order to make this session useful for a wide range of audiences, we will be covering features that is available in the basic Anypoint subscription. So no matter which subscription level you have, as long as you have an Anypoint access or account, you should be able to have access to all the features that will be covered in the session today. Our guest speakers today are Andrew and Parth from Incepta Solutions. Andrew will be the moderator for the session today, and Parth will drive the main technical topic. I'll switch over to Andrew and Parth to introduce themselves, but let me first remind you with the safe harbor statement. So in today's session, we may talk about future-looking products and services which are subject to risk and uncertainty. We would like to remind all of you to make any purchasing decisions based on products that are currently available. With that, I'd like to switch over to Andrew. Andrew, please take it away.
Yeah, absolutely perfect. Thanks so much, Jimmy, for that introduction and for setting the stage. Hi, everybody. First of all, I want to say welcome again to our MuleSoft meetup for today. My name is Andrew Lee, and I am the marketing manager at Incepta Solutions. And Jimmy, I just wanted to say thank you as well for providing us the opportunity to share our thought leadership with the MuleSoft community today.
Thanks.
And as we proceed to the next slide here, we'll just kind of go through a quick agenda in terms of what to expect for today's session. So first, we'll go through a quick brief introduction, and then we'll go through some of the meeting logistics in terms of what we can expect during our discussion for today. And then I would love to bring in our software developer, Parth, who would be discussing the following items. First, we will kind of dive deep into API and digital and outline the importance of those two elements. Followed by that, we will be discussing the API-led connectivity, and then we'll be talking about the API monitoring. And within our session for today, we also have a bonus of a live demo. So we'll actually be going through, some of the different elements and the features of, again, the basic subscription. And then at the end, we'll also have a Q&A. So make sure that you use the chat box on the right-hand side there if you do have any questions or any commentaries, and we'll be able to amalgamate all of them and answer them at the very end. And then before we conclude our session for today, we'll also be announcing our trivia winners. So there will be a few trivias that would be kind of, clustered throughout the session in between different segments. All right, so that would be the quick agenda for today. And then as we kind of go deeper in terms of the meeting logistics for today, onto the next slide. So, okay, here are some of the burning answers to perhaps some of your questions. The session is recorded, and there will be a copy that will be sent to the registrants following the event. Attendees are placed on mute upon entry, so not to worry, you are in the right place. Again, as I mentioned, feel free to post your questions in the chat, and we will have them all answered at the end. We will have 3 trivia questions between segments, and the winners will be announced at the conclusion of the session. Instructions will be provided before each of the trivia questions for valid participation. So that's very important to make sure that you follow those rules and guidelines so that you can have a valid entry. And of course, this might be the answer to some of your questions in terms of, is there a prize? Well, yes, there is. So the prize is that each winner will get a voucher for a free MuleSoft course. All right. So those are the meeting logistics for today. Now I'm just gonna loop in Parth here, who would be taking the stage in terms of the technical aspects for today. So Parth, did you want to take it away?
Sure, sure. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Jimmy, for
My pleasure.
introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you guys. My name is Parth, and I'm software developer at Incepta Solution. Here, we help organization towards their journey of digital transformation. Uh, so, what is digital transformation, and why every organization is racing towards this massive upgrade? To answer that question, digital transformation, in a simple term, is the process of using digital technologies to create something new or modify the existing business process, culture, and customer experience to meet the changing business and market requirements. It is a foolproof, future-proof strategy that help organization to achieve their business goal quickly, yet in reliable way. uh, so, how do we do the transformation within our organization? Well, through the API. API is the first approach in digital transformation. So, in digital transformation, APIs are often the building blocks used to push organization into the modern digital age. As a result, most application depends on the API for business critical transaction. And in order to design the API that is optimal, there's an approach, API-led connectivity, uh, we can use with. So again, what is API-led connectivity and why it's so important? So API-led connectivity is proven to have a significant impact to achieve the digital transformation. It is a methodical way to connect data to the application through the reusable and powerful API. This APIs unlocking data from system, composing data into the processes, and delivering to an experience. The data flowing through these integrations are highly secure, managed, and monitored. uh, it decomposes the application into the reusable blocks that enables organization to be more resilient for any upcoming changes with the great delivery speed. So how does that looks like when you actually implement this API led approach? So it has three different layers: system layer, process layer, and the experience layer. So system layer is the at the very bottom, which abstract the data and the functionality from the core system and ensure that provided data are aligned with the enterprise models. Then, just above the system API, there is a process API. The process API draws data from system APIs to perform the next level processing. It simplifies and automate the workflow to create a composite application. Then on the top of that, we have experience API that delivers output to the appropriate channel to engage the right stakeholder. So this is the how API led works. But in, let's say, in future, you will expand your API by adding a couple of experience or process or even system API to your existing application. With that being said, API will become more complex to maintain and monitor. So your architecture, your whole network application will look something similar to this. And uh, it would be nearly impossible to detect the smallest amount of flaws within your application network. And we have seen that often the development and the QA are considered crucial in the development lifecycle, but a lot many people are ignoring that monitoring API is also important. So our next thing is API monitoring. So what is API monitoring and why it's so important? We have all that question that in our development and QAs are more important, but why we ignore this monitoring and why it's so important. So basically, API monitoring refers to the practice of monitoring API. Well, of course, it's commonly focused in the production environment to get the visibilities into the performance of the application, to see the available APIs within our network, and the functional correctness of the API. So the API monitoring tools are designed to help you and analyze that the performance of your application and improves some poorly performing API. Uh, they provide measurements of how long a routine takes to execute, how often it is called, and where it is called from, and also important thing that how much of total time it spent executing the particular transaction. So these are some questions we have quite often while developing API and maintaining the APIs. So it will land us to one question: why it is important, why we need monitoring. So if you are using API to provide services for the functioning of your application, uh, they are either not available, functioning improperly, or not responsive. And sometimes it impacts the performance of your application and disturbs the end user experience. So monitoring really helps team to answer these questions, like what are the available APIs, uh, how the APIs are behaving, uh, are my APIs functioning properly as expected, and why my APIs are failing. And one more important question: if my APIs fail or is failing, what kind of impact it will have throughout my application network. So by implementing API monitoring system within your development or QA, it will help you to answer these questions gladly. Anypoint platform has option that help us manage our API proactively with Anypoint monitoring tool. Also, we have option API functional monitoring and Anypoint visualizer. Uh, Here we will look into all of them, how the platform will help you identify uh, uh, the issue, reduce the time to find the root cause. We will also discuss about the visualizer, what it is, and the different views visualizer provide us, and the usefulness to uh, different teams within the organization. Kindly note that I will be using a Mule standalone runtime for this session, which has the most basic subscription level, not the Titanium one. So it will not have all the features unlocked. And I will surely brief about all the features later in this session. And we will discuss about visualizer first before the monitoring, because visualizer will help us to give more information about the flow of an application, and it depends and the dependencies of our application, so that we can easily isolate the component that are not on our primary focus. So we will start discussing about Anypoint monitoring soon. Anypoint monitoring is a part of Anypoint platform. As I said, it gives us the visibility of our application network, the integration, and if we have any issue within the execution in our production environment, it would be so easy to detect and prescribe the solution. Not only it just help us to reduce the time to find the root cause of the application, root cause of the issue in the application, but it also help us to uh, focus on the metrics that help us to resolve this issue. Uh, in monitoring system, we also have some dashboards, so that all our data that are being pulled from the runtime environment uh, are represented in such a way that we don't get bored by just looking at some tabular or log file, because I know that we all get bored by looking onto the log file, searching for the details that what is causing our application to at this breakdown, or what are the blind spot that we've been missing. So Anypoint Monitoring will help us to get all this answered. So before we begin, uh, let's go to the trivia question, the first trivia question. Over to you, Andrew.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks so much, Parth. So now that we've set the stage, we've talked about the introduction and what we'll be discussing in further detail, who's ready for the first trivia question for today? All right, so here's a quick rules and regulations in terms of how to enter our trivia question. Please ensure that you provide only one after we have stated the question and all of the options. Jimmy will type "go now" in the chat box, and that's when you can add in your answer. You can type A, B, C, or D in the chat section, so you don't have to type the entire answer there in the chat, okay? All right, let's go ahead and present the first trivia question for our MuleSoft community for today. All right, question 1. To gain visibility into performance of an application and other important metrics, API monitoring is commonly focused for which environment? Is it A, dev, B, QA, C, staging, or D, production? Wait until Jimmy types "go now." There you go. All right. Loving all the excitement, by the way, guys. Keep that coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jimmy, have we gotten the person, the winner for today for this
Yep,
question?
go ahead.
Perfect.
Got it.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much, Jimmy, and thank you to all. Let's go ahead and proceed to the demo without further ado, Parth. So
Sure,
back to you.
sure. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Jimmy. So
Of course.
let's jump on to the demo part. So we'll, as I said, that we'll first dive into the visualizer before monitoring. So visualizer gets all the information from Anypoint monitoring, and it was it shows us different aspect of an application network graph. It includes 3 different views: architecture view, troubleshooting view, and the policy view. The first is architecture view. Architecture view shows us the topology of an application and the APIs, which is useful to understand the architecture of the system. And this view is primarily useful for the architect team. The next is troubleshooting view. The troubleshooting view gives us insight of the health of system and some performance based metrics that identify unusual behavior across the application. And this view is useful for the operational team. The next thing is a policy view. The policy view enable us to see that which components are compliant with the policy, the selected policy or the default policy that our organization have some standards. So this visualizer provide us a real-time graphical representation of the APIs and Mule application that are running and discoverable. Not only it just identifies the API of application network, but it also detects the third-party system that are invoked by our API within the network, of course. These data are dynamically updated, so we don't need any configuration additionally to pull all this information and display it and populate in this view. Also, in order to get the visualizer graph, one thing needs to make sure that user need proper permission from their admin. It requires visualizer editor permission. If you don't have this permission, then you won't be able to pull this information and populate all this information and able to see this under this visualizer tab. So keep this in mind, that if you want to see this under your account, the admin must have given you the visualizer editor permission. So question is what we can do with the visualizer, how we can make the most use of this all 3 different views. Well, It assists, the basic answer, it assists inspecting various performance metrics, policy information by providing different views, arranging application in layer, and even we can customize the label for each nodes and connections. However, customization is only available for Titanium subscription. Please keep that in mind. The first thing is the architecture view. The architecture view gives you the complete view of the application end to end. It gives you the bird's eye view of whole of your application within your network. It helps you to understand the current state of architecture. So let's say that let me zoom it a bit more. So let's say you have a new member in team uh, during your ongoing project, and the new person wants to get familiar with the application architecture and want to see how each system is interacting with each other. So how will you do that? So it's simple that you can easily export this image, export any view at any stage. You can export the architecture, troubleshooting view, or even policy view, and share it to just a minute. Maybe my session got logged out. Okay, at any stage, you can export this image as an image file and present it to your either stakeholder or the newly joined member, so that he can understand what are the internal connection between each application you have. And uh, as I said, that this will gives you the bird's view and allow you to explain that how your application is interacting with each other. And also a new API, if you want to add a new API or want to remove the API from the existing network, you can easily understand the structure of the existing application. And this analysis turns out to be very useful. Trust me, if you are having a new one joining to your team and he don't understand what the system is all about and where's the flow going from the external traffic to the end database, this view will definitely help the person to understand the overall flow of the application. And not only this, but also it helps to identify whether the application follows the API-led fundamentals or not. As you can see in current scenario, my application is flowing from external traffic, calling the experience API, then flowing through the process, then calling the system, and through system, it's distributing to Twilio API and the database. And here I have given defined each API under layers: experience layer, process layer, and the system layer. So this will help you to keep ensuring that you are following the API-led connectivity fundamentals. So please just bear with me. Currently, this is just a demo application, but in so many use cases, there might be a multiple APIs. As I mentioned earlier, you have lots of API application deployed on your runtime environment, and you have many application, many experience, couple of process, and tons of system API. So in that way, your architecture pattern would be much more complex. All right. So uh, it will help you to understand that might be a multiple APIs interacting with one another, and this will help you to get better understanding of how your API is working. One thing, uh, on the left hand side, you have two different options. If you have multiple environments to your runtime environment, you will have option to select a production, sandbox, uh, development, or even design. So that way you can easily have, you don't need to navigate to total different URL, but you can easily switch on to multiple environments. So if you have application that are under production environment, you can simply switch on to production. If you have multiple application on your sandbox, you just need to click on the sandbox environment, and then you will have to connect to your organization by clicking any organization you have under this account. And these are the tags information which I mentioned earlier. You can apply this tag information for each application at application level, or you can even apply this tag information through your properties file at application level. I will navigate you to the how it will work. So this is my application that is deployed into my runtime environment, and with this two properties file I can add it dynamically. If you are if you have a CI/CD pipeline, you can simply provide this properties file through the CI/CD pipeline, so that it can, it's deployed to your runtime, it will have these two properties, and this thing will populate into your views. So I have my experience, process, and system label for my each of the API. So if I there's one thing is easier to maintain is if I'm selecting my experience API, it will focus on my experience API, and it will allow me to customize my experience one. So if I want to change the name that is being displayed, I even can do the change it in here. I can change it in here, and that change will instantaneously reflect within the overview. Then if I want to add it into a layer, then I can change it from here. But since it's been applied through the property file, I'm not able to allow change it. Also, the same things with the tag. I have applied this property from application level, so I cannot change this monitoring, but I can add new label here. So these are few customization that is available under this subscription, but if you have Titanium, then you can do a lot more than this. So this thing is a lot useful for the architecture view, and it will also not only focused on this particular view, but it also help us to find out the dependency, as I mentioned earlier. So if you want to select the API to see what on how many system it's dependent on, then what I can do is I just need to select any API, and this will highlight the hierarchy of the APIs that being coming to this API and flowing out through this API. So currently I'm selecting the process, so it's highlighting everything. But if I'm just selecting the database, then it will uh, remove this Twilio API from the view, so that I can easily identify that the database, the whatever data is flowing through the external traffic are coming from experience, process, system, and then finally goes into database. And same thing with the API, Twilio's API. So let's take an example that if you have multiple APIs deployed in this view, and if you want to focus on particular API and want to identify that their dependencies, then simply you can select those API and figure out that what are the dependencies this API is having on. Then also you can select and deselect the services that you have in here. So if you don't want to display this Twilio API, you can simply deselect this, and it will just remove it from the view for temporarily. And same thing with all the database, external traffic, just to remove the third party API or third party connector. And not only this, but if you want, if your system, if you have so many APIs and if you are trying to focus on just application A, so let's just consider that this is my application A, and it has three different APIs: experience, process, and monitoring system. Then I just can select those API that showcase my application A. And if I have application B, then I can just select all those API that interact with my application or API by selecting and deselecting this thing. So that way, my experience API just vanished from my view, and it still shows that external traffic is not interacting with anything within my system. So this thing will help you in a lot of use case, which might not covered in this session, but if you apply it within your organization, then you'll definitely have more meaningful explanation. So this is the how architecture view performs. The next thing is policy view. We'll go to the troubleshooting right after the policy view. So policy view is all about the policy compliance. It enables the security team and the architecture team to see what policies have been applied to APIs. Uh, it has two different it has two different views, two different modes: this overview mode and the compliance mode. This is the overview mode by default, and you can see what when the page is loaded. And this view shows the number of policies that is applied to each of your API. Currently, we have zero applied to this API, so it's showing zero. And this is the overview mode. And in the compliance mode, it can be visible if you select the particular API. Uh, it will tells you the which APIs are compliant with the policy that you selected, uh, and you can select the list of the policies that are on your left hand side to see that whether this application or this APIs are compliant with the selected policy. You can see now that among the selected one, none of them are compliant with my APIs. I think the demo god seems to be unhappy today, so it's not fully loaded. But don't worry, that doesn't stop us from going forward. Uh, but currently, we can see that there are no policy applied, so it's displaying zero for all of them. It's displaying zero for all of them. Otherwise, it would have any number based on the policy applied. So let's take an example. If you have applied HTTP uh, or rate limiting policy or client ID enforcement policy, then the number would be 2, and the color would be ranging from white to green based on the number of policy you applied. The higher the number of policy, the more intense the color would get on your policy view. So when you select policy from your left pane, or let's say the basic authentication LDAP or simple, or HTTP basic authentication or client ID enforcement, the number will increase, and it will display that whether your policies are applied or not. Okay. And if all of our selected policies are complying with the API, as I said, that it will change its color to green. This is really useful when it comes to distinguish those APIs that do not follow the predefined security policies provided by organization. So let's say that during a general audit or security review process of an application, architecture wants to make sure that if the application is complying any rate limiting policy or client ID enforcement policy, so let's say, or even IP whitelisting policy. So this makes process much easier to look that these policies are not applied to such API, and so that your security team needs to work and apply these policies so that it follows your organization standards. For on-prem and runtime fabric, in order to get this data from your runtime environment, uh, you need to set analytics agents header injection property. By default, it's disabled, but you must set this property to false. For runtime fabric, this can be done at application level. And uh, for I will explain you how we can add these properties later as we move forward with this session. So this policy gives you overall details about the policy compliant to your application. The next thing is troubleshooting. So troubleshooting view is mainly used for the operational team, and it has certain metrics information on the left hand side, which tells us about how healthy our APIs are. This information is updated in real time, so it's really useful to detect and resolve the production issue we have. On left pane, you will see the basic troubleshooting metrics, and the data retention period is limited of a maximum of 24 hours. So you can switch it for 30 minutes or 24 hours, but for max is at 24 hours. So as I said, that this represent the live data, the real time data. So it's limited to 24 hours. Okay, so it's the very first step to start detecting any issue within our application, whether looking at the response time of the API, or average throughput of the API, uh, or even consider the failure rate. By clicking on each layer, we can select any of this property to see that whether this what are the data available here. So the more the usage of CPU, the darker the color it gets, as it's mentioned in here. The same thing with the failure rate. So the lighter is saying that the only few things are giving us error generation from this layer is quite less. And from the color intensity, we can see that experience we are getting most of the failure rate from the experience API. And by clicking on each layer, it will let us dive deeper at application level. So let's click on this experience application here, and we can see that all the metrics information that we saw is displayed on this here without selecting any metrics information on the left pane. So we have all the information for the particular experience monitoring thing. So these are all the information. It's specifically for outbound, as we selected here outbound. But if you want to see the inbound information and select it again, you will switch it back to the inbound. And through here, we can easily navigate us to the monitoring dashboard. This is the one way to jump onto the monitoring dashboard, but you can also navigate it through the management center to monitoring, and it will allows you and lend you to over the Anypoint monitoring thing. So again, we are back with the Anypoint monitoring. So Anypoint monitoring is in Anypoint platform provides a visibility into integration across your application network. It provides feedback from MuleFlow and the components within your application network. The monitoring tool is used by operational team and development team to diagnose the issue and prescribe the solution to behavior of negatively impacting our digital performance. It is designed in such a way that help us to reduce the time to identify and resolve this issue through this aggregated metrics, this visualizer tool, alerts, and everything. So it has two different options: a built-in dashboard and the custom dashboard. A built-in dashboard provides a visual representation of resources to detect inconsistency within the application, troubleshoot the issues, and see the trends that are unusual and not obvious as per our expectation. The custom dashboard brings together the specific metrics and a data point that are important to display graphs, charts, single statistics according to your organization's need. So let's jump onto this built-in dashboard. Uh, and if you go to the built-in dashboard, the first thing you can see is the overview tab. But for this to enable, again, you might need Anypoint monitoring user permission to be able to view this and make any kind of selection or changes. Just for information, please be sure that you have the Anypoint monitoring user permission or and visualizer editor role assigned under your account. If you don't have, make sure that you ask this to your admin so that you can see this information under your organization. And once you have this permission, you can enable it by just going to settings, and you will have three different options: Cloud Hub, Hybrid, and Runtime Fabric. For Cloud Hub, you just need to select this enable anypoint monitoring for newly deployed Cloud Hub application. And this way here you'll get the environment selection drop down. And once you select your environment, you will get the list of all application, that's its status, and is monitoring enabled or not. By default, it's if you select this, and for the newer version you can uh, select or deselect whether you want to monitoring enable or not. For Runtime Fabric, anypoint monitoring is enabled by default, so you don't need to do any kind of configuration or anything. But for hybrid, like what I'm doing right now, currently I am excuse me, currently I'm using the on-prem version of Mule Runtime. So in order to populate all this information, all this metrics, to get this data up into the Anypoint monitoring and Anypoint visualizer, you need to download Anypoint monitoring agent first. And in order to do that, you have to select environment, select your on-prem server, and download this Anypoint uh, monitoring agent. Once you download this, extract it into the Mule home directory, and for Linux machine, run this command, and for Windows machine, run this command, and follow this procedure. And once it's done, make sure to execute bin/am space start command. That way, you don't need to provide any properties to your application, and your runtime server will push all this information to the platform, and you'll get all this information up and running. So let's go to built-in dashboard. Built-in dashboard displays the graph that plots the uh, current and past data collected for a specific period of time. It's same for each Mule application, so it's not like that for experience the graphs are different, and for systems you don't see the total request by response type graph. So you will see all the graphs same, but of course the metrics information would be different for each application. And it may happen that sometimes you will see that no data point message within your graph, and this is mainly due to the incorrect time range you have selected in here, or if the application has stopped, or even time range is outside of the data retention policy. All right, so this is the overview tab, and it provides the overall measure for the APIs. Then the inbound, outbound, and failure tabs are focused on more detailed information about your each APIs. Such monitoring metrics informations are end-to-end tracing of the API call, and dependencies analysis to help identify the source of the issue. For instance, by this data information, we can track a response time of each endpoints, uh, their best response time and their max response time. Also, how many times the endpoint was invoked during the particular time frame. So overview tab provides a lot of useful metrics for the monitoring. It displays the graph grouped by the type of response for both inbound and outbound. We can see that it provides the total request by the response time, whether it's a failed or okay for both inbound and outbound. The same things for the average response time for the inbound and outbound as well, and the Mule messages. So how many of Mule messages were processed successfully throughout my execution of this process. Also, graphs for displaying every CPU used by the Mule JVM process. And then we have the JVM heap usage as well as JVM thread counts. So the overview tab gives the overview of your application's execution. And at any point, you can change your application's view from your different application, your process layer or your system layer. And also, this view is primarily focused on the application, but you can switch it to the API level. So if you go to the API, select the API, this API is deployed to this AnyPoint. This is the RAML design. And if you can select the API design, you have to select the version. And if you select the view, then it will give you the overview of the APIs. And here it will show you the similar graph, similar data, but in a different way, that you'll have total request volume and total failed request, count of total failed request, and the same will show you the average response time. And if you navigate through the request, it will give you more information about the incoming request. So let's say, but please keep thing in mind that this have data retention of max an hour. So uh, this is showing me the most recent information, this request, but the below information is based on the time frame that I have selected. So here I can identify what are my available endpoints for my experience monitoring. So here we can see that I have API/X person endpoint, and it was triggered 12 times within the last hour. And also how many requests was made based on each method: delete, get, post, and put. So you will have a basic calculation that by watching this graph, you will get to know that which method is invoked quite often, and which is the least one to get invoked. And during throughout the execution of my experience API, what are the responses I get, and what were the count of that each response. Even I can select the particular response type to see the count of each response based on the request type. So it would be more easier to keep track of the response and the method it uses. Then request by the request size. So it will brings the sum of the request by the request size. So if your request was within 0 to 100 byte, it will look something in green color, and based on the color mentioned, the size would be different based on what payload you are sending within to the request. And same thing goes with the response, what size of response you are getting when you are requesting this experience API. The same thing with the failure. So the failure will also focuses on among the request endpoint. Uh, uh, in last hour, what endpoints gives you the failure response and how many times. So this way you can easily detect and compare that how many times your endpoint responded with a failure message. So this is just a demo application, so you will just see one endpoint, but in your case you will have definitely more than one endpoints, where you can easily distinguish which endpoint returned with the success message and which endpoint returns with the failed message. And the same thing that if uh, if you get the failure response, then among which method was responsible to uh, for the root cause for the failing this whole API. So through here you can easily detect that among your four methods, get, post, delete, and put, two methods were responding with the failure message all the time. So this will help you to isolate to find the root cause and get you the more insight about the failing response. And of course, through troubleshooting, it is our primary goal to detect something that is unusual and or that is causing a failure to the whole application network. And what are the response we get. So if you have set the delete with some other response code and put with some other response code, then also you can detect that which method caused this response type. And the same thing, that size of request and the response, the size of the response. And the performance is more focused on the performance, and it shows you that which endpoint uh, has the average response time, the minimum response time, and the max response time, so that you can easily identify that whether it should be in such a way that this endpoint should return not more than a second or not more than 3 seconds. so that you can easily identify that whether your this endpoint needs some more optimization or not. And the next thing is the client application. If you have applied the client ID enforcement policy to your application, to your API, then it will have list of all the client ID and the count that how many times they made request to this API, so that you can keep track of who is consuming this API and how many times he is invoking this API. So that way you can easily monitor all this necessary information. And also you can detect which from which API you are getting more requests from. So these are all the information that you can get from the API specification, API level. But if you navigate through a hybrid application, you will get a different set of information than the API one. So here you'll get all this information about inbound, outbound, utilization, and everything. So next thing is the inbound. So inbound and outbound have a kind of similar, just a difference with the uh, inbound request and the outbound one. So inbound, we have some chart what is already there in the overview tab, and we discussed. Furthermore, we have charts that shows the response time based on the endpoint as well as the count. So here we can see the same thing, that we have this endpoint and their average response time, the minimum response time and the maximum response time. So based on the response time, it will have different color associated to each time. So green is the best response time, yellow is the adequate, and the red is the worst response time. So that way you can easily isolate that which application needs some performance evaluation. Then we have the endpoint, how many times this endpoint invoke within the specified time frame. And the next thing is the response time based on percentile. So this thing is shows us the graph for 99, 90, 75, and 50 percentile. And these charts are really useful during the troubleshooting the production issue. When operational team ask you how the API was responding during 90% of time, how this API was responding during 50% of its time. So you don't need to uh, go to your runtime and make a heavy query or more complex query to get this information. Anypoint platform gives you so easily this all information in the graphical form, that you can easily extract this information and send it to the more operational team for the further evaluation. So right now it's just using the same, it's just showing us the same trend, but in your use case it would be different and more meaningful use. Then next thing is the total failed request and slow request by the endpoints. uh, it will gives us a total failure request count for this application, so we can easily identify that how many times this API was failed. And is it okay that if it fails for this amount of time. You can also set alert through here that if it fails for more than 5 times, then it can trigger the message to operational team that this API failed at this time and the failing count is more than 5, so that you can keep your drive your focus and uh, help without having a greater impact. The next thing is the slower response endpoint. Uh, this this gives the information uh, if the response time is greater than 1. Otherwise it won't show in here. If it's 1 second, then only it will display as a bar in here, and if it's greater than 1, then it will have a higher bar. The same thing can be achieved with the outbound here as well. And one thing to know that if you have the titanium subscription, you will get 2 more charts right below this 2 charts, and this chart are only available if you have titanium subscription, and those are the total inbound request uh, by the protocol. So group by the protocol, and the other one is the total request group by the endpoint. So for the inbound request by the protocol, you will have charts showing which HTTP protocol, get, post, delete, or put, had how many requests. So that whatever we saw with the API one, the specification one, and it will have the similar structure with the outbound. So if you have Titanium subscription, you will have this two benefit of these two charts. uh, Additionally, if you have a Titanium subscription, you will have also one more option of a flow level monitoring, where you can see the all the flows that you have within the same application, and all the charts, all the information which you can see it in here will be visible at a flow level. So if you have 4 flows within the application, you will see the information for each flow, their average response time, uh, total request count based on the response type, failed or whatever, and the average the count of the request made by the flows and everything. So that's one more benefit. And then the next thing is the if you have Titanium subscription, you will also enable to see the connector option. Just like inbound outbound, you will have connector option, and that connector option will help you to uh, get the information similar for each connector, whether how many times your HTTP request was invoked, used, how many, what are the average failure rate for that HTTP connector, and the same thing for the Salesforce SFTP or web services and so on. The next thing is the performance tab. uh, it's primarily focused on the performance metrics of the API for both inbound and the outbound. It just gather all the information and put under one roof to save our time to go from back and forth within the inbound and outbound tab. So it gives us all the information that we already saw with the inbound and outbound. Same thing, all the information pulled within just one tab, so that you keep track of all the performance related to your application. Then there is a failure tab. As performance focus on the more performance oriented metrics information, failure will focus on the failure count, total failure count of request for inbound, for same goes for the outbound. Then the response time for the inbound, uh, request by response type for the outbound, and what are the failure uh, response time we get on the each endpoints, and how many times we get the failure response. So we can easily identify uh, uh, which endpoint failed. uh, Please stay with us, because I will going to demonstrate this, because currently it may sound boring that all this information are does not making much more sense. But I have one use case where I will walk through all this information, so you'll get to see how this information we can utilize for our practical use case scenario. Then next thing is the JVM. This JVM tab shows us the insight for uh, the JVM, for the garbage collection, the thread counts, the memory heap memory usage, and everything. Just to see this is more useful just to see if garbage collection is happening properly, or is there any memory leakage or something that bothers our application. All this information can be tracked here. Uh, then the infrastructure, it gives us the information about the CPU utilization by the mule runtime, system memory consumption, and the available processes for the application. Also, graph shows the heap collection and its usage. So there are some important monitoring metrics that are really helpful when troubleshooting the API provided by the Anypoint platform. And of course, some are available for Titanium users. This gives you top to bottom insight to resolve any issue quickly, to debug any production related issue, whether it's application or if infrastructure is causing the issue. So this was the usefulness of the built-in dashboard. And the same thing goes with the custom dashboard. So custom dashboard allows us, as I mentioned, custom dashboard allows us uh, 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 to extract a particular metrics information specific to uh, our organization. And the creation of custom dashboard is way more easy than it sounds. You just need to click on the dashboard, then it will ask you to select any of the design you want: graph, single statistic, table, or text. So let's just select the graph here. If you select a graph, then you don't have any data point displayed, but you can change it through the configuration here. And here you'll have different tabs: general, access, visual, alert, and advanced. So titles, you can provide anything here and it will change it according to this title pane. And whatever description you type here, it will reflect in this information section whenever you hover the information on the graph. Then you have to select the panel type: is application, API, or API analytics. uh, let's go with the application panel. Then you can select the metrics information that you want to populate and display it in this graph. So let's select any of this information. Let's say outbound request count by the flow. Select the environment. uh, let's take the sandbox, and let's select the uh, API. So here we can see that outbound average request count by the flow. So we made request for post, we made one request during this time, and for put, we made two requests during this period of time. So this will give you more information. But as I said that for use case, for your each individual use case, the information and the metrics would be different based on your organization's criteria. The next thing is the access. If you want to change the number shown in here, uh, you can change it by currency or whatever, real or date time or anything. But you have so many options available. If you don't want to show nothing, then you can select none. And the same thing is goes with the right hand side. If you want to display another metrics information, then even you can do that same thing here. And instead of linear, if you want to change it a log base, you can do it as well. And there are a lot many customization option available in here. The next thing is the visualizer. You don't want to display your graph in a linear way and you want it to show it as a bar, then you can switch it to bar, and this way it will give you a lot many graphical usage. And you can see it with a different color. Also, you can select the pinpoint so it highlights over there. So these are few options. You can fill the bars with the intensity uh, under the line. You can set the line width, and every information is customizable. You don't need to do any kind of coding in here. It's a code free customization option. Then the next thing is alert. Currently this is the advanced level alert, and it is only available for the titanium user. This is the basic alert. We will also walk through the basic alert. But if you have titanium subscription, then you have access to the advanced alert. And here you can set the same alert what we can set it on the runtime alert. That if your you can set the threshold that if the average request count goes above 2.5 or 3, then you can set it as three types of alert: information, error, or warning. So based on the selection, you will get an email to your production environment or even operational team or your developer team that your get request goes beyond the specified threshold. And all this information can be set dynamically in here. And the advanced, here you can select the pen in advance. Here you can assign the link to this chart. You can assign the legends threshold, or even you can specify the time range here. Also, in general, you can, if you want to extract custom metrics information which is available on your Titanium subscription, you can even do that from here. You just need to go to the enable the advanced mode, and you can select this metrics information, all this metrics information. You have the custom metrics option for the Titanium user, but even though if you don't have Titanium subscription, you will get all lot of information you can extract the information from. So if you want to extract information from the inbound metrics, you need to select the inbound. You can select the organization, environment, worker, select the application ID, what information you want to pull. You want to mean it, you want to remove the mean, you want to aggregate to some distinct, or any information you can, whatever you can do it with your SQL statement. You can just apply the same methodology in here. And if you want to apply some alias to your coming metrics, you can do it through here. And if you just apply it, that information will populate in here. So this is something the custom dashboard allows us to build something. So let's deep dive into the use case, where and how we can keep track of the information that causing the issue. So let's go to the visualizer first, because as I mentioned that the visualization, Anypoint Visualizer is the first step to start detecting our issue. So we can see that here uh, we have the average response time is higher for the experience API, then the process is higher than the experience, and the system is quite optimum. It's just responding us very quickly. Then we can directly navigate to the failure rate, so that we can see that we have lot many failure requests for in experience and process than the system one. So how do we identify that what is the root cause of failing this application, this whole application? So we can go that experience and process have the same amount of failure rate than the system one. So let's go to the experience one, and in here let's go to the experience. We are already in experience, and let's see that what are my inbound endpoints. So here we can see that I have one endpoints for the inbound, which is x person, and how many outbound do I have for the experience API. So if I scroll down, I can see that I have one outbound, that is p person, and among this 2%, what was basically, if we have just one outbound, then it's obvious that this p person was failing quite often. So we can see that the failure total request count was 96, and this was the only we have under the failure request count. So x person was for inbound causing issue, and the same thing, p person was the root cause of responding to the failure. All right, so let's go to the p process API and see that we'll walk through the same procedure that we went with the experience. We'll first list out all the inbound request endpoints for this. So we have seen, we can see that it's p person, we have inbound, and for the outbound we have two endpoints, s person and s message. All right, s person and s message, we have two different endpoints available that in for the process layer. And if we navigate to the failure one, we can see that among these two endpoints, I'm getting error, failure response, failure total request count for s message. So we reduce the scope of our failure criteria, that we had two endpoints that was causing the issue. We have two endpoints, outbound endpoints available, and that was S message and S person, and among these two endpoints, the S message was causing the issue. So we'll navigate further, we dive deeper with the system monitoring, and we'll do the same thing just to make sure that we are not missing any information here. So we'll scroll down and we see that for system monitoring, we have two endpoints, S person and S message. And for the outbound, we are calling the Twilio's API, that we have one endpoints, that is Twilio, and the other one is database. So if it's database, and we have seen that in our experience, the total failure request was 32, and the failure request is also 32. So if we scroll down to the failure, we can see that the failure response time and the failure request count was primarily for the S message. And the total request was 32 for this endpoints, and which is Twilio endpoints. So now we have identified that in this application, this Twilio was causing the issue. All right. So this is the first way. This is the one way that we can identify the root cause of our application. And in here also, in architecture view, we also can identify that the external view invoked experience API one time, process one time, dev one time, and database one time. But among this view, api.twilio.com was never invoked. So we can easily isolate that the Twilio was causing some sort of issue because it never invoked by the system API. And this issue is flowing back to the experience API, causing the whole application some failure to fail. So this is one use case scenario. So this is how we can use the monitoring platform to detect the root cause of an application. And this is how we identify that which endpoint was the causing in the application. And within the same subscription, I've created another dashboard which can be easily created by all of you if you have the basic subscription. And through this, I'll try to demonstrate that here we focused on which endpoint was causing issue. Through the custom dashboard, we will try to extract the information for which flow it was causing the issue. So I have created the same custom dashboard diagram here. I will show you the configuration here. I have not used the advanced mode. I have just used the basic configuration here. So here I have select the application panel. I have select the inbound success count. Then select the application. This is the experience application. And I have selected the success average request count. So based on your requirement, you can select any of this metrics information. But for this demonstration, I've selected the average request count by the flow. So I'll get this information, and I've selected for the other graph, I've selected total inbound average failure request count. So on one side, I have total request count, and on the other hand, I have total failure request count. Then on the other hand, I have created two different graph, one for outbound success request count and outbound failure average request count. And the endpoint is the graph is respective to both the flow level. So inbound request is coming, I'm getting a response for success response for this flow, and failure for the same flow. But for the outbound, I'm getting success for get and post, whereas the failure response is coming from delete and put, so that I have narrowed down my scope of issue to these two flows only. Then I'll navigate to my process API and do the same thing. Instead of selecting this API here, experience, I've just selected and chose the process API here. So here I've selected the process, and the same thing I have selected the system API in here. So here I can see that I have inbound success request for this main flow, and the same flow is responding with failure. But for the outbound, the delete, get, post, and put, they all are responding with the success message. But the failure is coming from the SAPI TW requester. So I have narrowed further down from delete and put to that particular flow, that this flow is responding with a failure message. And this flow is calling the SAPI TW requester. So I move it to the next system API. And here I'm doing the same thing. And I've seen that we have seen that from P layer, we have gotten the success response from all these four flows, and for the SAPI we've gotten the same success flow. But on the SAPI level, we have received the send message as an error. So the send message flow was causing the error. So we found the root cause for which flow we got the error, and which flow was causing the breakdown to the whole application. So we just don't need to look for the log files for all the different APIs and scratch our heads to identify the solution, or look through all the smallest error that the log was having. Through this charts and this visual information, we can easily detect the smallest flow within the application. So with using this monitoring and visualizer, it narrowed down the scope of your issue and help you to focus on the one that generates the exception for your application. The next thing is the alert. The alert is what I told you earlier. You can, with this subscription, you can create the basic alert. You can create alert name, the severity level, whether it's info, warning, or critical. Then whether you want to apply for application level or server level, select the application, select the resource, select the metrics information. Where do you want to initiate this alert on a specific amount of time, the subject, the message, and the recipient information. And once you set all this information under the hood, the alert will keep monitoring all the metrics information, and it will trigger if the metrics goes beyond the threshold that you already specified. So I hope that this demonstration, this step-by-step demonstration of detecting issue helps you a lot. This is very useful, and I hope that it will also help you to detect this issue. And my primary target was to go with this basic subscription. So a lot of developers who don't have access to Titanium or Platinum subscription, they still can get the most use of the monitoring services or visualizer services to detect the smallest amount of information or root cause without going through much of the log information. So this is what you get with the Platinum subscription. With the Platinum subscription for the
Sorry, Parth, can you go to present mode? Yeah, the text is very small. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, sure. Sorry about that. So with the Platinum mode, Platinum subscription for the application performance monitoring, you'll get the application metrics information. For application, you'll get more than 80 metrics to monitor your API. Then you'll get API functional monitoring and basic alert. I will explain a little bit about the API functional monitoring. It is quite useful if you implement it on your end. Then on log management, you will get a basic logging and log search uh, with with basic log search capabilities in your runtime manager. But please keep things in mind that the retention period is around 100 MB per app per worker, or up to 30 days, I guess. So after that, you will lose the access to the logs. And also with this subscription, uh, the Platinum subscription, for custom metrics, you will be able to create a basic custom dashboard. uh, so you cannot send the basic or custom metrics information to your application, but you will you can create a basic custom dashboard, what we just saw uh, 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 prior. For Titanium for advanced dashboard, or to send the business metrics or custom metrics from your studio or from your application to runtime environment, you will need a Titanium subscription for that. And for monitoring infrastructure, it's shared monitoring infrastructure. So these are the features what you can unlock with the Platinum. And these are the features that you get the addition to the existing feature that you can get with the Titanium subscription. So here on performance monitoring, you have the connector metrics and flow metrics, which we discussed. That on connector metrics, it gives you more information about the HTTP connector, the Salesforce connector, the FTP connector, SFTP connector, and all these connectors. And the flow metrics will gives you the information at a flow level. You'll get the information, how many times the flow, what are the response time for each flow, the failure response time for the each flow, and every information that you can create through custom dashboard also. Then uh, you can also have the advanced alerting that we saw in the custom dashboard. You can select the advanced alert, that you have to set the threshold for each custom dashboard, and you can invoke it if those threshold goes uh, beyond the desired specific amount of information that you configured. Then the reporting display the information about the performance and the behavior across all the application in the environment. It provides a request report, performance report, and a failure report for all the deployment types, uh, whether it's Cloud Hub, on-prem, or Runtime Fabric. And for Cloud Hub, it gives a CPU utilization report and the memory report, so that if you want to extract this report for the stakeholder, for your or for your internal meeting, you can extract this report from uh, this monitoring and present it to your meeting, that what were the performance of a particular API for all application, not just one application. So it would be easier for you to explain with the stakeholder. And this report are extracted in the CSV format, just so that you can easily use that information to any BI tool or any other other Excel tool, or you can push this information into the database, so that you don't have to worry about the retention policy also. Then the API functional monitoring is something you want to see, or something you want to set up uh, to see if your application is functioning properly. So creating this API functional monitoring is so easy, just like what we saw uh, uh, with the custom dashboard. You just have to create just like custom dashboard. There will be option of creating a functional monitoring. You just need to create a new functional monitoring, and it will ask you to provide a meaningful name. Then it will also ask you to uh, the path for the API for which you want to monitor. So functional monitoring helps you to carry out white box testing, black box testing, or even runtime monitoring. So if you want to keep monitoring of your application by automatically invoking it after 15 minutes or after every half an hour, or even after an hour, so that you just need to set this API there. Either you need to make a get request, put request, or post request. Just specify the header or query parameter or even body parameter, body to the API, and set the scheduler to invoke, and what are the expected response to that API you want. So if it fails, you'll get an email alert to the person, so that it can keep track that whether if it's failing in five to 10 times within an hour, then you seriously need to raise a concern over that API. But if it's failing hardly at 1 or 2 times throughout a day, then it can be due to that server is down, or some database is under maintenance. So this is the information that you can extract through the API monitoring services. And in the log management feature, you will have so many logs available that if you'll get advanced level log access if you go to the monitoring services, and if you are navigating to your dashboard at any point. If you want to extract this the log of this period of time, you will have one option available as a log, see log here. And if you just like manage application, if you select that log information, you will navigate to the log information for this particular time frame. So you don't need to go to the runtime environment, look through all the log history, scroll to the each time frame, and then try to search for the particular time frame, and look for the root cause of the application for particular log amount. So that way you'll if you have Titanium subscription, you will get more easy of access to get the uh, uh, log information for this log level. And also, if you want to search through some detailed log, you don't need to provide any coding or any querying to the log. You just need to specify particular time frame, uh, and it also has the advanced search. If you searching at with some query, then it will it will search throughout the log and give you the best result available, and also gives you the warehousing your logs capabilities with the Titanium subscription. And for custom metrics and events, you will have the option to send the custom metrics information from your application to the custom metrics information on the custom dashboard environment. So that way you'll get all the information, and you can extract the custom metrics information for, let's say that you are dealing financially, your application is dealing financially, and you want to get the information of total sell based on some information. So you'll get the sum of all the information, but it's totally up to the requirement of within the organization. So that is the thing that you can extract with the Titanium. And the same thing goes with the monitoring. So for Platinum, you'll get shared monitoring infrastructure, but here you'll get the dedicated monitoring infrastructure and high frequency data collection. So by default, the data retention limit for uh, gold and platinum subscription is limited to the 30 days. But if you have Titanium subscription, uh, you'll get the capabilities of search log, searchable log, application metrics, enhance advanced level alert, or enhance API metrics. And the retention period will increase to 365 days rather than just limited to 1 month. So this is what you get with the Titanium subscription. So hope this thing for both Platinum and Titanium features will give you more information about what you can do with these monitoring services with the visualizer and with the custom metrics information. This will, I believe that this will help you a lot when troubleshooting the issue. Thank you so
Wonderful.
much.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Parth, for that insightful and robust live demo of Anypoint monitoring and Anypoint visualizer. So, even though I come from marketing, I feel like I've also learned a lot of things during that demo. So, thank you so much for that. And we also hope that our audience was able to get a couple of insights and ensuring that that is helpful for them as well. Okay,
Great, great,
so let's
great.
proceed to the next slide here because we have a few more trivia questions ready for the
Yeah,
audience. Yeah, so just as a friendly reminder, make sure to follow these rules for valid entry. All right, ensure that you provide only one answer in the chat after we have stated the question and all of the options, and Jimmy types "go now" in the chat box. All right, you can type A, B, C, D in the chat section, so you don't have to type the entire answer there. Okay. So let's take a look at the next question here. Question 2 for our trivia. All right, here we go. So the question is, in Anypoint visualizer, which view is used to detect any unusual activities happening to API? Is it A, architecture, B, troubleshooting, C, policies, or D, none of the above? Awesome. Yeah. Really loving the enthusiasm with everybody, by the way. So thank you, everybody, for your participation, for your activity. This is awesome. Yep, looks like we got our winner. Great. Let's proceed to the final trivia question. We got one back to back. So here's the next one. So what is the primary function of Anypoint monitoring? Is it A, logging mule events, B, graphical representation on application network, C, solving issues, or D, detecting unusual behaviors? Yeah, this question is definitely an interesting one, right? Okay, looks like we got our winner for this question as well. All documented, perfect, awesome. Let's proceed. All right, so now here's just some tidbits of information, some mini bite-sized information of Incepta Solutions. As we proceed to the next slide here, who we are as Incepta. We have been a partner with MuleSoft. If we just continue on to the next slide, we've been a partner with MuleSoft for a couple of years. A quick fun fact is that we are the first few partners in Canada during their early stage of developing the core team. We're a trusted IT partner for digital innovation with a strong global presence. We're humbled to have been named on the Growth 2020 list as one of Canada's fastest growing companies. And most recently, we've also been Great Place to Work certified. So that's something that we're thankful for and to take pride in. In terms of our mission, we want to provide innovative digital transformation solutions by leveraging leading technologies and platforms. Our areas of expertise, in addition to digital transformation, are integration, data management, customer 360, cloud strategy, and cybersecurity. And our solutions would be cutting edge integration and automation solutions that empower businesses with digital innovation. And we're also very active on social media. So as we proceed to the next slide, we have our social media channels listed here. So you can find us on LinkedIn at Incepta Solutions. On Twitter, we are Incepta S. And on Facebook and Instagram, you can find us at Incepta Solutions. All right, so that's a little bit in terms of who we are. Now, let's open up the room for Q&A because I know that we had some questions within the audience here. So I'm just going to bring up our questions. So Oman from the audience asked, any best practices or recommendations when it comes to defining the tags and layer on the visualizer versus defining them on the application properties? That's a good question.
So there aren't any recommended way, but it's totally up to up to your need. So and it's not limited to just one tagging or one layering. So let's say that if you have one common error handling API that is consumed by all of this API, then you can create on a separate layer that says error handler, and you can use that error handler layer in here. And also, you are not limited to just apply one tag to the API. You can add as many tag as you want, and applying this tag will help you to distinguish multiple API. So let's say that you have multiple application, and among those multiple application, you are using the same system API to interact with Twilio and the database. So you can apply that application A and application B. And if I select application A, then it will show the all the that have tag as application A. And if I'm selecting application B, then all will be disappear from the graph, and only those application that have tag application B will be displayed in this view. So it will help you to identify and distinguish between multiple application. So it's totally up to your scope of your application and your usage. So you can apply as many tag as possible. But in order to follow the API-led connectivity, it is best that you separate all your API with this application, process, and system layer. And some of the APIs that are not that are performed as a utility, so you can assign as a utility layer, and call those utility layer within your experience or process or even system layer.
Fantastic.
So hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Oman. So hopefully that provides insight in terms of how that part works. So we have a second question as well here. So this one is from Erwin, and Erwin's question is, for a hybrid, can that be set up to run as system CTL services? Does it need to be root user or service account user?
I'm not sure if I get your question, Erwin. But for hybrid account, you just need to set up all this information, and this thing will be all this information from your runtime environment will be pushed to the monitoring service. And of course, for that, you definitely need to have access to your on-prem server deployed within your any machine or any local server. So as long as you have access to that server, you can download this Anypoint monitoring agent and push this information from that server to this Anypoint monitoring platform.
Awesome,
But
great.
if it still not answer your question, feel free to reach out to us, and we will further get communicated and give you the proper explanation for that.
Yeah, we can definitely take that one offline as well, as I think it would require a conversation for it. So, but thank you for that question, Erwin, and thank you for that insight, Parth. All right. Are there any additional questions that we can answer right now? I know we have a few more minutes. Feel free to add it in the chat if you do have some more questions. If there aren't, I say we proceed and we continue on to announcing the trivia winners. That's the next part for this, right?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. All right, so for the very first trivia question, I know we're doing a bit of a flashback to it. So we asked, to gain visibility into performance of an application and other important metrics, API monitoring is commonly focused for which environment? And the answer is D, production. So Parth, do you want to maybe describe why that is, and just kind of give us a recap?
So yeah, of course. So the monitoring is really important to detect the issue that is going on our application, and this application the detecting issue is so important if this is on production environment, because on dev environment or QA environment or even a staging environment, we can detect is from our developer perspective, but the production environment is up to the clients. So what kind of issue client is having, and this can be easily detect. This cannot be easily detected by a developer or any QA. So as long as it's on a client's end, client will have access to the production environment, and client will do its A plus B plus C everything, and it will if he's the one who's getting the issue accessing those API, then definitely we need to troubleshoot this issue and detect what the root cause of this issue. So it's the best practices to uh, uh, get this information on for the production environment.
Great. Thanks so much, Parth. And so the winner for this trivia question is, drumroll please, Eskander B. Congratulations, Eskander. So Jimmy and the MuleSoft team will be getting in touch with you in terms of providing your prize of a free MuleSoft course. All right, let's go ahead to the next question here. So let me just read out what the question was. In Anypoint Visualizer, which view is used to detect any unusual activity happening to API? And that answer is B, troubleshooting. Parth, did you want to provide some insights or shed light on that?
Yeah. So by unusual activity means if your API is not functioning properly, because the architecture view gives you the bird's view, the overall view, that the flow coming from the external system to your API and going to the end system. So the architecture view gives you that view. The policy view gives you the that your API is compliant with the policy specified by your organization or not. And the troubleshooting view gives you more insight about the response time, the failure rate, and what are the inbound and outbound request response time, and all this information that we already gone through. So the troubleshooting is the first way, and it's also used by the operational team, whereas the architecture and policy are mainly for architect and the security team.
Superb. Thanks so much, Parth. And the winner is Kishore Katragada. Congratulations, Kishore. And I apologize if I'm not pronouncing the name correctly. But again, congratulations. So Jimmy, you know what to do, and the MuleSoft team will be in touch. Okay. Third question. We asked, what is the primary function of Anypoint monitoring? And the answer is D, detecting unusual behaviors. And why is that, Parth?
So detecting unusual behavior, we have walked through all these use cases that if at any point, if you are facing any issue and you want to see the root cause of the issue, you want to detect the unusual behavior within your application, then of course Anypoint monitoring, after navigating through the visualizer will give you overview. So it's the graphical representation of your application network. So that's what visualizer will give. And of course, Anypoint monitoring is not the tool that solve your issue. It just gives you it just point you the issue towards the issue that your API is having. And of course, it will navigate you to the logging event that you can detect or see the log. But the primary function of the Anypoint monitoring is to detect the issue.
Awesome. Great. Thanks so much, Parth. The winner for this trivia question is Karan Gupta. Congratulations, Karan. Jimmy and the MuleSoft team will be in touch for your MuleSoft course. All right. Awesome. Is there anything that you'd like to add, Jimmy or Parth?
No, I just want to thank Parth for the amazing presentation and the very insightful demo. And I also want to thank you, Andrew, for moderating this session. Amazing contribution from Incepta Solutions, as usual. And I also want to thank all the audiences today, and I want to congratulate the winners. I will submit the winner names to the MuleSoft meetup teams, and they will contact you on your emails that you used in the subscription. Subscribing to the event. With that, again, thank you everyone, and looking forward to see you again in the next meetup.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you, Parth.
everybody.
Take care, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.